All right, Chad Smith here. I'm in central Minnesota. I'm a bit of a whitetail fanatic and elk, I guess, but I'm gotten better at this game over the last 4 years. I've been doing it seriously. I did a podcast with a gentleman named Bob. I work at a meat market. He's brought in some bruisers. He knows what he's doing. It's clear from the interview he's a humble man that is still learning. So anyway, if you're in central Minnesota, go to Gene's Sports Shop in Perm. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just, I've been to a lot of shops. These guys know what they're doing. Go see Josh down there. Reasonable prices. He's going to hook you up with a bow. It's going to be tuned, set up. Having equipment that works well is very important. So, and those guys have always been good to me. So check it out. But here's the interview with Bob. Do you remember what the dates were on these?
Some of them. It's amazing how some of them are a blur. That was October 29th. And, rounding down. Gross.
And that's the muzzleloader deer then?
That's the one I missed with the muzzleloader.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the broadhead. That's the arrow I used on. And he's a 187 and some change. So he had split G1s. He has actually 3 kickers off of each G1, and then a split G2 on the right. So he would be a straight 6x6. So he had 18 or 19 scoreable points.
Yeah, that's a pretty deer.
Yeah, talk about ruining a guy. That's my first deer.
That's the first one. Oh, you said that was the first thing you ever shot at in your life, wasn't it? You had never shot at a rabbit, you told me, and then you shot that deer.
Thing in my life with a bow. Like I said, I bought a bow in August and I shot him in October. That's what an archer I was. That's how experienced. Sometimes luck is good too.
Sure.
And the other side, it took me 3 years to figure him out.
Well, that let him get bigger.
And that guy is like the 5th maybe of November. He's a 174 and some change. I love that buck. He's just a beautiful buck.
He's perfect.
Yeah. Heavy.
Heavy.
I never saw that buck in my life except for trail cameras. That's where trail cameras really make a difference. And I never had a trail camera picture of him during the day. That's the one I shot with just, 3 minutes of legal shooting. I looked at my watch because I knew it was getting close. And I hear him coming through the brush as I put my phone in my pocket. That was the only time I ever laid eyeballs on him. He was nocturnal.
That's a monster.
Yeah, he was a beautiful buck.
What did he go?
He was 174. And I love that buck too. That's my 151 straight 8. And he was one of 2 bucks I was chasing that year. And remember the one I told you where I dropped the stand and made all that noise and stuff? Shot him in the wind? That's that one.
That's the one?
Yeah, he just had a death wish, I guess. Was a great experience. Learned a lot on that one. That's a rage kill, by the way. That's why you see there's no broadhead on it.
Oh, got rid of the evidence?
No, it broke off.
Snapped off.
That was it. That's why I can't shoot that shoulder mount from the left on his left side.
Okay.
It was so big, but had a terrible tracking job. It was another learning experience. I don't shoot expandables anymore. He was quartering too. A lot of lessons on that one. I actually drew back on him, and the arrow came off the rest. So that year I decided 2 things. I was going to shoot full containment rest, and I wasn't going to shoot rages anymore. So I learned a lot off of him.
This is super good. Hold on. Should mark this on Onyx.
All right, sounds great.
All right. This is Bob. Bob is, I work at the meat market, and out of everyone that comes into the meat market, there's one guy I would say is consistent on killing big bucks. I think I've seen you there most years.
Couple years.
Most years. So we're going to kind of pick his brain today and have a few questions for him. And just kind of see what his method is. Everybody has a different way of doing things. And I think the most effective way to do anything is to realize that continuing to learn is definitely how you get better. So
yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
as soon as you think you have everything figured out.
Oh, I think that's what keeps you coming back, isn't it? Because there's,
Yeah.
if you're not learning or trying something new every year, you're kind of getting stale.
And it's a progressive chess match.
Yes, it is. And I think makes it, I think that's the fun part of it.
Yeah.
I agree. Yep.
Exactly. So, yeah, just let people know
Okay.
who you are, how you got into seriously archery hunting.
You know the story. I think I may have told you this story. I was,
It's been a couple years though.
Okay.
I'd like to hear it again.
I was ready to quit hunting. I'd been hunting since I was 12, I suppose, or 14 for deer. And I was literally getting to the stage where I was sick of hunting.
No fun.
The fun was gone. I'm shooting a little buck, I'll shoot a doe. And if in this area, if it's brown, it's down.
Sure.
The last few years of that, my brothers and I would not tell my dad when we saw a doe, because we were supposed to shoot does.
Sure.
We'd just say, no, I didn't see anything. Because if we told him we saw a deer and didn't shoot it, he'd be upset. So the last few years, it was really, the joy was being sucked out of it. And I wanted to shoot a big buck.
Sure.
And I was really to the stage where I was going to quit. So I'm in my late 40s, had been hunting my whole life, and was ready to quit. I was just sick of it. The joy was gone. And then I suppose one year, my brother saw a big buck, and a neighbor had saw a big buck, and I said, you know what, I'm going to chase one buck. And like we were just talking about that. Years ago they were saying you can't do that. You can't find a buck and chase that buck and kill that buck. So I said, I'm going to kill that buck. I didn't see that buck that year. So I was hunting for one buck. I hunted the whole season, did not see that buck. I'm not sure if I saw any bucks. I was committed to that one buck, I kind of knew where he was. Second year,
How did you know where he was?
My brother saw it. That's it. My brother and a neighbor saw it on this little 10 acres of woods.
So you hadn't laid eyes on it?
Never saw it.
Okay.
No.
But they said it was just a monster?
We found the shed.
Okay.
We found the shed. That one up there.
Okay.
I see the 6x. Yeah.
It looks like it's off a T-Rex.
Yeah. So we found the shed, and we had sugar beets out there or something, I think we planted, and we were checking it to see, what was out there. So that shed is actually 2 years before I killed it.
Sure.
So that was the year I didn't see him. So the next year, I'm going to try it again. I know he's out there. I hunted, I wasn't into archery, I was just into rifle. So I hunted the rifle season, didn't see him. Had a muzzleloader, took a muzzleloader tag, and went out. I was living quite a ways from here at that time. Came up that night late. I'd driven 300 miles to get up here. And I saw him and some does going across the field, 250 yards, before you can have scopes on muzzleloaders.
Sure.
I'm not taking that shot. He's heading out.
Not too effective.
Not effective. He's heading out. I let it go. But I know where he went. And I kind of had a plan. I went out there. The next morning, it's 10 above. I go out there and sit in the blind I have out there. And I sit out there the whole day from dark to dark. And I saw him 6 times on the other end of the field where I had just left. Third day, I'm going out there. I'm going to sit in a reed canary patch. And I bundle up in 2 body heater suits. Yeah. One inside of another one. On a stool. On one of those little pads that you sit on that you heat yourself so that the heat doesn't go through your seat.
Sure.
And so I'm sitting on that, on a tripod in some reed canary, where I think he's going to be, I figure it's going to be a 70-yard shot. 10 above, dark when I get out there.
Is that where you saw him bouncing before?
Yep, this is where he should be. He should be in that same area. I think I have him patterned. That's all I knew about deer hunting at the time. I knew where he was, so I was going to be there the next day. And I remember getting out of that stand once to pee at noon. Went back in there 10 minutes before legal shooting. He comes out, 75-yard shot, and I miss him. Muzzleloader, 75-yard shot. Learned a lot about muzzleloaders and testing them in cold weather, stuff like that. So the third year, now I'm committed to hunting him, and that's when I buy a bow. I bought a bow in August, and I killed him on October 29th, and that ruined me. That's what changed my hunting career.
Okay.
The fact that I hunted it for 3 years, I finally got it, figured it out, bought trail cameras.
Sure.
Got him on trail cameras, got him patterned, totally different area. Picked him up. I only saw him once, but I had him where I thought he was going through. I had him on camera 6 days earlier and caught him at about 20 minutes before I had to change for church on a Sunday morning, and put a lung shot on him and went to church. After church came back, recovered him, and that's what changed my hunting career, because if I just fell in love with archery, and I rarely hunted with a rifle after that.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was my start in archery.
How did you have him patterned?
Trail cameras gave me a pretty good idea of where he was hanging out, and I found a pinch point where he was coming around a slough lake. And it was a pinch point where I knew we had to go through, and at that time we had it was wheat that had been harvested, and it was that regen growth of wheat, and they were just hammering it like a hayfield. And
so he was going to food, so you got between bed and food.
On the 29th, so it would have been just pre-rut, October 29th.
Sure.
So I caught him coming from food, and I got lucky. I didn't know what I was doing. I just got lucky. It was a real foggy morning. In fact, as I'm going out with a four-wheeler down the road to go get him, to set up, I just about hit a deer on the road with a four-wheeler on the highway. That's how foggy it was. And I think it changed his patterns. I think what it did was it was dark, foggy, and I think it changed his patterns, so he came across a little bit later than he normally would, and that's all it took, that extra 10 minutes. Yeah. A
little less visibility, so sure.
Yeah, and then I start learning about hunting after that.
So what is it, how is your what has changed then in your process from then
to now?
Not from just getting into it to
it was like what we were just talking about. You did it once, but you can't do it again.
Sure.
And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking exactly what you were just saying here. I'll bet I could do this again.
Sure.
I'll bet I could find a buck, do it again. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying I can do it every year. But that's real arrogant. You can't. I can't. I can't do it every year.
But don't you kind of have to have that? Don't you kind of have to have that belief, though?
Yes. Yeah, you do.
I know it's arrogant, but also if you don't have the belief, then
you're not gonna get it. Sure. Trail cameras changed it a lot. I think trail cameras have probably saved the lives of more deer than anything out there.
Sure.
Because you'll hone in on something you really want to kill, and everything else is off limits.
Yeah.
There's only one tag. So if you burn a tag up on something that was on a camera, it's done. You're done for the year. It's not like some other states where you can fill a lot of tags. So I think trail cameras changed it. As soon as you find one, and then it's all good. You're just trying to figure out that one buck.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. So that you went through the hunting history. So how much work are you doing in the off season then?
You mean today?
No. I mean
after this, I was 51 when I killed that deer. Sure. I'll be 67 here in a couple of weeks.
Sure.
So for 16 seasons, and each year it gets a little worse. It's like you're living and dreaming this, and you're doing this almost year round. Now I'm to the stage where I just about do this year round. I'm doing something involved with deer hunting.
Sure. On a weekly basis?
Yeah, at least.
Okay.
At least, yeah.
So do you do much? We didn't talk about this actually. Do you do much spring scouting?
Yes. In fact, the best time for me to scout is right after you kill a buck. That's when I love to scout. Spring scouting is good. That's where you can find rublands and stuff. I love spring scouting. We don't get a lot of sheds here. No. Our deer do not herd up here. I don't know about where you're hunting.
The sheds I showed you earlier are the first set of sheds I found.
Right.
And I put on miles.
Yeah. So
they move out to the big farm country stuff around where I am. So
I'm not sure where they're heading. Some guys are telling me they're going east, some guys west.
Sure.
But I know they're not here, and by the 15th of January they're gone. Sure. There aren't any deer here. And they won't start popping up again until spring, so it starts to green up a little bit.
Sure.
Between that and food plots and stand setups, and every year I'm trying something different, so it seems like there's a list of things you're going to try. A lot of things don't work, but I'm constantly trying something different.
And then once you get through that list, can you take a deep breath, or does the list just keep going?
It keeps going. In fact, it's a curse, because the list keeps growing. It seems like.
Sure.
You think, okay, when I get this done, now I'm going to be set. But you think of all these other things you can try. I'm playing with different food plots. I'm playing with different stands, different stand locations, transition areas. Change broadheads again. I'm probably going to change sites. I'm constantly trying to figure out different things, and you get a pretty good idea of what works if you do this long enough.
Sure.
And it's an addiction.
Oh yeah, all trial and error.
Yeah,
stuff.
Exactly.
All right, so I did have food plots on here, and that's something we hadn't talked about. Now that is not That's not my game. I don't understand very much of that. My brother does some.
Yeah.
He does sugar beets with, then he's layering rape in, and then he's doing, because of Jeff Sturgis, then he's doing the winter rye.
Yeah.
All fall, and any bare ground gets winter rye. And
food plots are overrated.
Sure.
Do I do food plots? Yes. Are they overrated? Yeah, probably. You ever kill anything off a food plot?
My brother has.
Does he?
Yeah.
I don't even hunt off food plots. I just try to set up transitions.
You're trying to make the movement.
Yeah, so I'm trying to create deer movement. I don't shoot off of food plots.
Sure.
So you're trying to set up movements where deer are coming from bedding transitions to food plots. Because if you don't get far enough away off the food plots, you're never going to see a buck, because the buck's not going to go there till dark.
Not the one you're after.
Yeah, exactly.
So you use them for inventory purposes then?
Food plots?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes mineral licks.
Sure.
Sometimes, to use just to see what the inventory is. Because if you find one, it changes everything. When you don't find one, it's a lot harder to hunt.
Yeah.
Last year I did not have a buck that I wanted, and I just
hold on a minute. You brought one in.
I know.
I said,
but
you put one down.
Yeah. You know what? The last 2 years I've had a hard time finding bucks. So you're basically hoping you're sucking them in from other areas, and that's ultimately what I did. I brought in a buck that I really only had 2 pictures of.
Sure.
Like I said, I had him the year before, and he put on 4 inches from the January of 21 to the January of 20 to November of 21.
Really?
21, the same year. So one was in January, and I killed him in November. So he was at the end of his career. He was never going to get bigger.
Sure.
And it was a nice 8. It was a nice wide 8. He's going to look good when Garrett gets him done.
Sure.
But he was the biggest, oldest buck I had in the area. And so yeah, you do sweat it a little bit. It's harder to do this when you don't actually have one picked out. Yeah.
So I didn't realize this before. I thought before, because you told me you had some food plots when I had talked to you a year or 2 ago. I thought your blinds were set up on your food plots.
No.
So you're setting them up.
Yeah. Somewhere where I'm going to catch them going to food plots.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about how far?
It depends on the site. Yeah. It just.
How far do you figure you're from bedding?
Sometimes you can be really tight between the two. Sometimes those 2 areas aren't very far, so it really depends on which area I'm in. That particular guy, I saw him get out of his bed. So sometimes you're really close to bedding, but you just kind of figure out where bedding is, where your food plots are in that transition before. You have to be 10 minutes away from food, don't you think? I think you got to be at least 10 minutes away of the way a deer would go through, because it's only the last 10 minutes that count.
Right. So
if you're not,
they might come up to close to that edge right at dark.
Yes.
But you never. It's not often you see them saunter out.
Right.
I think a 3-year-old will saunter out, but when you start hunting 4, 5, 6-year-olds,
different animal, isn't it? Different animal. Yeah, it's.
They do some stuff that's strange too. That.
Yeah. Some people will say as they get older, they actually get easier to kill. I don't know. Maybe.
They say they hold tighter to an area.
Yeah, I believe that.
And they say if that's their home range, you're not kicking them out. Yeah. They'll avoid.
No, I believe that too.
I'd love to believe that.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a little bit of permission to be aggressive.
Yeah. I've seen a case where that worked too, where you could not get that guy out of there. I'll tell you a story if you want to hear one. I'm set up here, again, real close, not very far away, and I happen to glance back for whatever reason, and a doe and a buck are going behind me across the field into the woods. I'm going to say 90 yards.
Yeah.
Well, not much I can do about it. Although I thought, that is a pretty good spot. I'm going to move a stand.
Sure.
So I have a breakdown ladder stand, and I break it down, and I can't take it across this open area in one trip. I have to take it in 2 trips.
Sure.
So the first time I take it across the field, and I set up part of it. I go back, and I'm getting the next part of it, and I drop it, and it clangs, and that buck takes off. The buck was bedded down for that whole time. This is now several days later. The buck is bedded down there. And when I dropped the second part of the stand, I chased him out of there. Well, that buck's gone, right? You'll never see that buck again, right? That's what I would think.
Yeah, that's what I would think. If I dropped the ladder section.
Set the stand up, came back, I don't know how many days later. It was a very windy day. I came in late. I had only 15 minutes to hunt. So I was, again, not living here. I got into that tree stand and it was blowing so hard that I couldn't, you couldn't hear anything. Well, that's the buck that I killed that was 32 yards away that got out of his bed. So I saw him the first day he went through there. I scared him out of there the next time when I dropped the stand trying to set it up, and I killed him like a week later.
Yeah.
When I moved into him, he stood up out of his bed when a little 18-month walked underneath my stand.
Really?
And he was checking out the 18-month to see what was going on. So sometimes you just get lucky,
Sure.
you know. So do they hold tight? Sometimes. They hold tight.
I think they each have a personality.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And some you aren't going to kick, and some are gone.
Yeah, and then the other guy, you look at him wrong, he's gone.
Yeah.
I go under the premise that if you blow it, you're done.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to kill him. That's really what you have to assume. I mean, have you ever blown one out and seen them back again?
21 days is what I kind of go by.
Okay.
If I hunt a deer twice, and sometimes I'll even throw 3 sits, but usually it's twice, I will assume, if I didn't see him, that he made me.
Okay.
And then I will give it about 21 days. And my cameras, and I've heard that from other people, you know, around that 20 to 30 days. But it seems like 21 days later he's on my camera again.
Yeah.
So there's something to it.
Yeah.
You know, and it depends how hard you bump them, or possibly. But I think if you leave it alone for 3 weeks, you can go back and give it another crank.
Yeah.
And throw something else at it, you know, but come at it from a different direction.
Yeah.
You know, kind of sketch your
Yeah.
plan from before start over because you were wrong.
Yeah.
And if you were hunting a high quality day and you do it a couple times and you don't see them, I usually just assume I got made.
Oh.
Anyway, so we figured out that the best time to hunt the deer is when they're moving, but we don't know when. exactly that is.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I think that it seems to me, that's why I was wondering if you saw that movement. Like, there's 2 or 3 days around that 25th to 28th where you get a volley and then it seems like they disappear, and then the first 5-6 days of November it seems like they're, you know, things get more random than 2 in November.
Some people hate the rut, don't they? Because then they get locked down and you can't do anything. And
that, or sometimes your target buck is just
it's
gone.
Gone. Yeah. I don't know if I've noticed that or not. Is it possible? Yeah, because I can see some evidence of that, where they could be going in the 20th, they could be moving. You start to see scrapes. You could see scrapes as soon as the 15th.
Sure.
But it seems like those are little bucks. I think big bucks are just hunkering. We disagree, obviously. I think big bucks are hunkering down and not doing anything until about the 29th. I don't even think they care about things until about the 29th. I could be wrong. That guy I shot on the 29th, and he was not chasing, he was feeding. 29th of October, and all he was doing was filling his belly.
Sure.
No does. So, and I could be wrong, but that's part of why I believe that. I think they don't turn on until... You think big bucks don't care about the rut as much? About as like a 3-year-old
Maybe they
or a
don't.
4-year-old? Or they don't?
I think they do, they just don't get it. They don't run in stupidly.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not making a big hell of blue before it actually starts.
I was out here a few years ago when I killed that 174. And I hunted that area, that little woods there, 9 days in a row. 9 days in a row, 2 stands. Right there.
That little
right there. From that stand to that stand. 2 stands, 9 days in a row. Did all the scent tricks I could come up with. So I was not going to get busted. And I never got busted.
Sure.
I had 15 does that were going back and forth to feeding. And I figured if I hung in there long enough, I was going to pick up that 9. And I did. For 9 days. They went back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And I think that must have been about the 5th. And,
Sure.
and 3 days before I killed them, little bucks start chasing does. And by little bucks, I mean
Little guys.
little guys start chasing does. It was about 3 days later before I caught him chasing a doe. 5 minutes of shooting time, that was it. That was the last 5 minutes of light, and they were coming through here and they were going to hit that field. It was the same 7 or 8, 10 does, one of them went into heat.
Okay.
And they're on the 5th.
And it was about 3 days before that you were seeing the little bucks chasing.
Little guys were starting to chase the older does.
Okay.
And harassing them. Now,
So they knew they were starting, or
Right.
you know,
Yep,
something.
when you see that, when I see a little guy starting to chase, well, then I know it's close. But I really want to be out there because it's close.
Do you go out immediately then, or you
It's close. It could happen
Okay.
any day, and I find that it can turn off real fast. It's that little window you're catching them. I suppose before lockdown, right? It's a little window. It
Yeah.
doesn't last days. It lasts a day or two. What do you find? It's a short window, I think. I think we disagree on this, huh?
No, I don't know that we disagree. It's just, it seems to me like that occurrence happens, you know, it's not exactly the same time of year every year.
Okay.
You know, it seems to be 4 or 5 days different.
Okay.
And it also seems to be my friends that live
Oh.
to the east
Yep.
of me 10 miles and I'm hunting 40 miles or 50 miles away. It can vary a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I would buy that too. My buddies in Decorah, they're 375 miles away. They have a whole different hunting experience than we do.
Sure.
It's just different times.
So
It's got to be.
what's happening here does not map
No.
onto what's happening there.
It may not even map on what's happening on the other side of the county.
Yeah.
It may not.
So do you think what happens on your farm here though, do you think that happens pretty much exactly the same every year? Or does it vary?
Within
It's
just
close.
a few days. Weather changes a little bit, but it's
Okay.
within a few days. And
Okay.
by a few days, not 5 days, probably less than 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Well, that's where the difference I'm seeing is I'm running cameras in a hell of a long distance, so I'm maybe getting
yeah. Oh,
I'm getting too much information on too many different deer, you know.
how far apart are you running cameras? How many miles?
100-mile circle.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I
Yeah.
would say you're absolutely getting different
Sure.
deer patterns. 100 miles.
A 100-mile circle.
I know, but I'm doing 400 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 900 acres total. So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, we're in a different world. And you're public land, I'm private land. We have different,
Sure.
really different experiences, don't we?
Well, right, but it's the same game.
Same game. Yeah.
It's the same game.
Yeah.
That's, but no, and maybe I'm getting information overload, and that's when my brain starts smoking.
That's interesting. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
definitely learning something here. So this
Well,
is good.
but I find, like I told you last year on the it was the 28th, I believe, every shooter I had moved. And
When you say move, you mean left?
no, I mean
Oh,
they
we're
showed up
moving.
in daylight about 10 o'clock in the morning.
On 28th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're talking a lot of cameras in a big area.
Big woods or fields and
Mostly big woods.
big woods?
Big woods and reprod.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well, you're gonna make me go out earlier.
Well,
I might start hunting.
and the year before, I think it was the 25th. And it seems to be that last year was, it seemed like just that one morning, every shooter moved. And the year before, there was a 3-day period where there was a lot of chasing going on, the 24th, 25th, and 26th. A lot of chasing. I had one camera, I had 11 different bucks. I think a doe had to have been in heat there. It was ridiculous. And all daytime pictures except, there was a few pictures at night, but those deer also ran by that camera during the day. They were chasing there like crazy, and I don't know why. But those were the same days that my dad called me and said I saw 3
Okay.
bucks chasing does.
Yeah.
He saw one down at the farm, and then 22 miles away, he saw 2 other bucks chasing does the same day.
Same day.
The same day.
Yeah.
And that's 22 miles away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And what day?
I don't think that was, I believe, the 24th, 25th, and 26th, 2 years ago. Last year was the 28th that all those deer moved that morning, those shooters. And it was a nice cold morning, like it was maybe a 15, 18 degree drop. The next morning was like that. It was like the first frost morning.
That's a much closer experience to what my buddies in Decorah have.
Okay.
And I could just be missing it. I
Sure.
could literally just be screwing up. It's, I'm just not getting it right.
But maybe you're staying out of the woods long enough to get when they're hot too.
Because you could definitely blow this thing about going 9 days in a row.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Sure.
It worked, but you gotta. You better use scent control. You better use those onyx. You better not fire up a 4-wheeler.
Sure.
You're walking in. You're walking out.
You're not 4-wheeling into all you're saying?
My 4-wheeler gets shut off on August 30th.
Yeah, those are dragging tools.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
My wife
Once the work's done, the
starts it
4-wheeler
up and
can
helps
start.
me when I need to get it to drag
Sure.
it out. But yes, Tony LaPratt, really convinced me on that.
Sure.
You don't do 4-wheelers.
Sure.
I'm really fortunate here. I don't get in a pickup. My scent control is from my house to my fish house where all my clothes are, and
Okay.
I'm getting ozoned. And then I shower, I change in the fish house, and then ozone bag, and the boots, and the bow, and all that stuff, and then I walk out. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you wipe your bow down, or you just keep it in there? Or?
Yeah, that, and I do a lot of ozone. I put that in that
Okay.
same
Sure.
area, and that bow gets ozoned. It's not the bow as bad as your release.
Sure.
You smell your release once. Oh,
Yeah.
horrible.
Locker room. Smells like a locker room.
Rubberized binoculars. Smell those ones. Horrible. That binoculars, rangefinders.
When they're new.
Yeah.
Very bad.
Yeah. Downside on this is that ozone will just destroy rubber. I used to run an ozone machine in this enclosed little room, building, and 8 hours at a time. I'd turn it on, I ran it for 8 hours, and my boots would last 2 years. The rubber would
Really?
just fall apart. Don't do that. You only have to run it for a little while. 10 minutes, shut it off.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know it had a
Yeah,
different.
The ozone will break down rubber. That part you
Sure.
mean, or the?
Yeah.
It's amazing how much odor is in stuff you bring out to the woods.
Yeah.
Any rubber products. Yeah.
That's what Eberhard claims too. He says he won't wear a pair of boots until he's had them for 2 years.
Oh really?
Like soak them in mud and just
Oh, I believe.
leave them outside.
Yeah.
Because he said the first 2 years you're leaving rubber smell everywhere.
Yeah.
And anything that's foreign odor will.
Yeah, I'm a big
Key up
product of that carbon product. I spray down with anything,
Sure.
and then I put that carbon product on, and I don't really worry about deer crossing a deer trail.
Sure.
Yeah, you know.
You've never seen any reaction to it?
No. No. I had to cross a deer trail every time I did that.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know, you can't screw up.
Sure.
You gotta be ozoned, you gotta have the carbon product, you wear the mask,
Sure.
the carbon mask. Yeah.
So you're pretty strict about your scent control.
You have to be pretty strict about it.
Sure.
Out here, it's the same thing again. If you get busted once, you're probably done.
Yeah.
You know, if you're chasing that one guy and you bust him once, there's exceptions.
Sure.
But if you bust him once, so now what do you do to keep from getting busted once? You're only gonna get one shot.
Yeah.
You know,
Everything you can.
everything you can. Yeah.
Sure.
So you know 140. Start getting excited about him. If that's an older buck,
Yeah.
absolutely, because it doesn't mean he's gonna get bigger.
Right.
Like that one, he was a 140, then he turned into a 145 a
Yeah.
year later. That's it. He's not gonna be a
He's at the
150.
end of it. Yeah.
He won't be a 150.
Sure.
It's not gonna happen. But it does suck the joy out of it when you're just chasing hinges. Because then your buddy gets a bigger one, and you know you're comparing big racks to big racks, and
Yeah, but it's always I want to chase the biggest out of the 5 or 6 that I find.
yeah,
You know, but then I wasn't chasing the biggest one last year. I sat a couple sits, but he kind of disappeared, and then I went to the next one.
yeah,
You know, I want to shoot one that's nice.
yeah,
But if there's a 10-year-old spike out there, I don't have any interest in them. I just don't.
Good
I mean,
point.
I know that's a different game.
yeah.
I want a decent, you know,
Well,
and maybe that's completely superficial and wrong, and as I get older, maybe I'll change too.
you're not, you know, the reality is there's a certain deer I won't bring in. I mean,
Sure.
if it isn't a certain
Certain cow.
size, I don't,
Yeah.
you know, you'd feel bad about shooting it, frankly.
There's something about the mystique of seeing those antlers coming through the woods
Yeah,
too.
an adrenaline rush.
You know, there's not
Yeah,
a 10-year-old hat rack's not going to give me that.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it seems like they're a warrior if they have big antlers, and I prefer them to be older, but I'm more likely to get my butt whipped by them too.
Yeah.
Which is the reason you want to go after them.
And I think here we really don't have a lot of great bucks that are 3.5-year-olds. I don't know if we really have that. 3.5-year-old bucks that are 160. Do you think we have that?
No.
Yeah.
That the 138 I killed was 3.5,
Okay.
and he had a hell of a lot of potential,
Yeah.
and I just straight killed him
Yeah.
on public in a place that gets hunted a lot, but
Oh, talk about.
and
a
I
tough
thought
hunt.
about letting him go, but
It's a tough hunt. That's a tough hunt.
yeah, but that was my biggest buck up to that date.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't want to compete with anybody else, but I want to shoot something bigger than I shot last year.
Yeah. Will you go?
Every year.
Will you go without taking a deer? Just go eat the tag,
Yeah,
or are you gonna fill
No.
the tag? Okay.
I'll go with that one.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Sure.
If you, like I said, trail cameras have saved a lot of deer's lives
Sure.
because once you pick one out and you know what you're after,
Even
everything's
if you have
small.
one picture from August, you
Yes. Yes.
know. A lot of guys are running that game where
Yeah.
they have,
And I
they have a
think-
farm and they have him in August and he's miles away or dead and they're hunting that deer till the buzzer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
That's kind of good though.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing that.
Right.
Yeah. in some ways, it was fun last year when they just showed up and I didn't know what they were.
Right.
Like I had 160, and that's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to find one, chase it, figure it out. But to just have a surprise show up,
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun too.
I can see that.
Yeah. So now, what is it? It's July. You got anything big? I don't know.
I have nothing big.
Okay.
I have nothing big,
Okay.
but I never have anything big until October.
Yeah.
You know, if there's higher deer density areas, the bucks aren't hanging out with the does.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
So
Then I got nothing. But I say that every year. I got nothing. It's.
There's some years I haven't. Last year I got a picture of a big one August 3rd.
Okay.
Or August 4th. It was some right at the beginning of August.
Okay.
And he was a big one.
Yeah.
And then August 20th or so I got a picture of that 12.
Yeah.
Something like that. So in August I got pictures of some.
Okay.
But it's quite a ways away from where I hunted them and where they were in October.
Yeah.
That 12 was about 1.5 miles away from where he was when the rut was going on.
Yeah.
Which isn't very far.
But it shows you how tough it is.
Yeah.
You know, try to pick out the spot when they go even 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
Pick out the spot. You know, that's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because with bows, it doesn't do any good if they're 70 yards
Yeah,
away.
you gotta be with it.
Yeah.
Within 30 is better.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Even over 30 it's tougher.
The furthest shot I've ever made on a whitetail is 34 yards.
Yeah.
That's the furthest I've ever shot. And even rifle season, they're not much longer than that. When I used to do rifle 20 years ago. You know.
That spot I told you about, that where I patterned that 12 in the spring that I have all them rubs, that's I think 36 yards I gotta shoot in. But that's the only tree, man. And it's solid. The axis is perfect. It's one I can hunt a few times. And they're not gonna know I'm there. It's very good. That's one of the. But it's 36 yards.
You know, we talked about it a lot off camera, but that was the one thing I learned about the most. We talked about the other thing is you have to get in and get out without getting picked off.
Right.
That might be the most important thing. You got to get in, but you got to get out.
Yeah. If you had to tell somebody that was starting and was new, what is
the number one thing?
Is access.
It's that. It's not even the best spot.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I hunt my best spots.
Right, because you can't get in and get out.
Well, yeah, we were just showing you. I can't hunt this area. Yes, that definitely changed the way I hunted. When you find, and it was stuff I read on the different magazines.
Sure.
You know, about you got to be able to get in and you got to be able to get home.
Sure.
Because if you're blowing them off the fields, remember the story I told you about my boy's dog and how he remembered the coyote out there?
Sure.
This little pup. And he remembered for 2 days where he saw the coyote. Institutional memory. He knows that he saw something there. Well, if you blow them off, they remember where you were at. They remember the stand. They remember to look up. They're not going to do it twice.
Do you ever alter your access then?
If I have to.
Okay.
If I have to.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I've come in with kayaks to try to get to the right spot. But yeah, and the other thing is, if there's a temptation to go in one way and come out the same way, can't do that. Not always.
Not always.
You'll have to go in a different route. But it's late, it's dark.
Right.
You're
know the way.
You're sick. You're just going to cheat. You're going to just take the shortcut. And then how many times have I blown something? You hear that snort, you're coming out in the dark. Boy, it's a sickening thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, and sometimes it's impossible to keep everything perfect, but if you're after a big one, you almost have to.
As much as you
can. Gotta, well, there's a few rules you have to abide by. And once you break one, he knows you're after him, and then it gets really, really hard to kill him.
I would say that's a very good point. Yeah, once they know you're out there, it's done, you know. Yeah. That's why you can't send an arrow over the top of their back and figure they're going to be back there tomorrow.
Sure.
It's not going to happen. And I've had that happen, you know, bad shot, nice buck. So you sit in the stand the next night, you know, when I first started doing it.
Yeah.
What a waste. There's one place in the world he won't be.
Yeah.
And that will be that place. You might as well go any place else. You could sit in your living room and have better odds of killing him. Yeah, you can't educate him and expect him to be back.
All right. So that was my interview with Bob. I'd like to thank him for agreeing to do that. He's a consistent guy. You can tell he's not throwing anything out the window as far as what he may be missing yet, because we're all learning. So it's July 15th. There's cameras to check. Deer will be showing up. I've been shooting bow like crazy. Anyway, thanks for watching, and good luck hunting.